those individuals who, as I read this list off, and I'll remind you once or twice in there too, those individuals who have a healthy frame, you know, that you haven't damaged. So of course, if you have a healthy frame that's not damaged and you're fairly flexible, then these are my top 10 exercises that belong in every bodybuilder's routine. So with that being said, in no particular order, I'm going to go straight to number one. Number one is pull-ups or chin-ups. Pull-ups being the overhand grip, chin-ups being the underhand grip. Both of those are, well, I shot an entire video on why chin-ups are so good for you. But they're both, in essence, a great way of training your back muscles, your arm muscles. They are also engaging your rotator cuff muscles and your shoulder blades in the way that they're naturally supposed to be engaged in a great proportion, okay? In a great proportion, or with, I should say, the bigger muscles. So you have stabilizers being used while using the bigger muscles, such as the delts, the rear delts, the lats, the rhomboids, the biceps, the forearms, all of those major muscle groups that I just mentioned. You have some serious stabilizers within your rotator cuffs, and those stabilizers get engaged properly in the proper ratio, let's say, strength ratio. You can develop your rotator cuff muscles to a great degree doing chin-ups and pull-ups, and they're very good for the health of your shoulders. I'll put the link down below for that video that I shot on how good they are for the health of your shoulders. But that's my number one exercise. Pull-ups or chin-ups. Again, this is in no particular order. Number two, the pull-over press. I can already hear you guys. I can already hear you. You know, what's he talking about, the pull-over press? Making a top 10. Yeah. The pull-over press. Again, I'm going to emphasize, if you have not damaged your body, if you have a reasonable amount of flexibility to your shoulder joints, the pullover press is an excellent tricep movement. I'll put the link down below how I explained why this satisfies all of the functionality of the triceps. So pullover press, it involves your triceps to a great degree. It involves your lats to a great degree. It involves your chest when you do that close grip bench press on the press part of the movement. So the pullover press with a barbell or with an easy curl bar, your choice. Either one. I can do both. I like doing both. Again, I've been doing these exercises that I'm going to mention in this entire list since I was a teenager. So I started working out in 1980, and now it's 2000 and just turned 2021. So I'm rounding up on 40 years right now. Actually, I started out in 1981, so I'm hitting 40 years in a few months. So that being said, 40 years of doing these exercises and keeping my flexibility and not being stupid by using too much weight, especially in something like a pullover press. I've always been very mindful of the exercise. And also when I've taught it to others, when I teach it, they do it right and within the realm of their shoulder flexibility. And if they still have their flexibility, they're able to do it just fine and they don't cause damage. So the pullover press, I really enjoy that exercise. It is my number two. Number three, here we go. The barefoot calf raise. The barefoot calf raise. That could be either standing calf raises, that could be seated calf raises, that could be donkey calf raises, but the barefoot, specifically calf raise. Now, some of you are going to recognize this as a Vince Gironda recommendation. You know, back in the day, you had Larry Scott doing barefoot calf raises on a calf block with some extra, he called it thick gum rubber, covering the calf stand where you put your feet, the block. I've done them on both calf machines that have a nice rubber, comfy piece of rubber on it, and I've done them barefoot right on straight metal. And either way, it works fine. That diamond-studded metal, that can get a little bit irritating, but that's the only one that has ever irritated me. I've done barefoot calf raises since, again, 1981, good going on 40 years now. And the funny part about that story is, well, the interesting part, number one, is that my feet are really strong and I don't have any issues with my feet. I've taught my kids to do them barefoot as well. They don't have any issues with their feet. So that's very important. Strong feet muscles, between the toes. It's not just your calves. But then, number two, well, let's get back down for a moment. Those strong feet have helped with the longevity of my bodybuilding, right? And with anybody who were to do that. We have runners these days, running coaches who teach runners to run barefoot, at least for part of their program. And I don't mean on cement. They go out on a turf field or on a grassy area and they run barefoot to strengthen the muscles in their feet. So it's a different feel, a different run. But when you train your calves barefoot, it's different. You're going to not be able to use as much weight initially as you're used to. And then the side effect, maybe, I say maybe because we can't go back and discuss potential. But in my history, my feet have grown quite a bit. I wear a size 12, but I don't wear just a normal size 12. My feet went from a size 12 to a size 12 2E and then a 12 4E over the years. So my feet have gotten wider. And, that may be from simply doing calf raises because I do them really heavy. Or it could be from doing them barefoot. I'm not sure, but either way, my feet are really healthy. My podiatrist has really given me compliments on the health of my feet, and I don't have any weird shaped bones or anything down there. And when I used to have a modeling agent back in the day, I used to do both hand modeling and foot modeling. So body parts, and I guess they kind of look good. Just saying. So barefoot calf raises. Number 4 on my list. I have to look at this list, guys. I made a quick list because it's just, I wrote little notes with it too. Number 4 is the dumbbell bench press. The dumbbell bench press. Why do I say dumbbell as opposed to just bench press? And I know some hardcore people out there are going to say, oh, everybody should do bench presses. It's the basic exercise. And then we have the other bunch of y'all out there who are saying, ouch, pain, ouch, just at the sound of bench press. So usually it's those who have damaged their shoulders from bench press. Now look, I'm talking about dumbbell bench presses specifically for a reason, because number one, you're able to get under the dumbbells and individually tuck your shoulders down towards your waist using the force of your lats, creating a little arch to your lower back. So you're tucking your shoulders down and back, positioning yourself in such a way that you're able at that point to engage the chest muscles, the shoulders, and the rotator cuffs are being used to a great degree for stabilization. And as you're doing those bench presses, you can angle your elbows at a 45-degree angle to your side. This being 90, this being 0, halfway out, 45 degrees. Very safe for your shoulders and your rotator cuffs. So, dumbbell bench presses, that's my explanation. I'm going to try and give you some quick explanations here without a story on every one of them. How's that sound? So, my number 5. So, dumbbell bench press instead of barbell bench press or even machine bench press. My number 5, which, before I get to number 5, that reminds me. I just said dumbbells or barbells. So, what's the real deal? The real deal is you're not going to find even one machine upper body exercise in this entire list. The reason for that is that when you do free weight exercises on the upper body muscles, those shoulders, they're so dynamic. The shoulder joint is the most delicate one out of all of the joints in your body. It moves in so many different directions, and there are stabilizer muscles in there that are delicate. And so the idea here is if you're going to do an exercise for the upper body, and you want to maximize the muscle mass stimulation for the bigger muscles, you also have to train those stabilizers to a great degree. If you don't, you're going to cause an imbalance over time, and then that imbalance is going to bring with it pain. So that's the problem with using machines. I'll put a link down below with my opinion, the video that I shot on certain machines. Okay, so you'll see some links down below. You can check out those videos as well. But we're going to move on now off of that. That was just my brief explanation as to why we must use free weights when it comes to the upper body specifically, anything involving the shoulder especially. Okay, so we're on to number 5. Number 5, my number 5 best must-have exercise in any bodybuilder's routine is squats. Free weight, barbell, front squats, either one of those two are great. Barbell squats, structurally, there's very few people that I've met and trained over the years that just don't belong doing barbell free weight squats. The large majority of the people, you can space the feet just right. You can, go so far as, if necessary, to elevate the heel just slightly on just about anybody. But the large majority of people can do barbell free weight squats or barbell front squats if you have to use less back, if your structure so dictates, or if you just want to use less back and use more leg, front squats. So squats or front squats is my number 5. My number 6, and by the way, I'll put a link down below in my explanation about squats. I'll put links for just about every one of these down below in the video description, okay? My number 6, seated dumbbell shoulder presses. Seated dumbbell shoulder presses. Wow. I just heard a lot of screaming going on, a lot of yelling, and some people actually turning me off right now, moving on to some other video because, sacrilege in some people's worlds right there. Shoulder presses being one of my top 10. Yes, they are. Shoulder presses. I like doing shoulder presses myself. I like my clients doing shoulder presses. We use dumbbells instead of a barbell. Most times, we're sticking with those dumbbells. Occasionally, if there's a really good machine that we might use a machine, but it's very few of them have just the right curve as you go up, and very few of them feel just right. So it's really dumbbells and being able to manipulate the angle of your elbows when doing those presses, keeping them tucked in a little bit instead of splayed way out to the side. So being able to keep them tucked in a little bit hits the shoulders rather hard without risking AC joint damage, shoulder impingement, and then wearing away at the rotator cuff. So being able to do all of that and stopping short from the top. By the way, I don't do lockout shoulder presses. So it's very important that, look, when you do your shoulder presses, you need to be able to drive them up, use the muscle, and cut it a little bit short from complete lockout. That's a little bit hard on the rotator cuff when you go all the way up to the top. So that's probably the best way to explain that one. Dumbbell seated shoulder presses. I didn't say standing. I believe seated. That's support. I like it. You can focus on the shoulders, doing strict work. When you're standing, unfortunately, I know a lot of you out there saying core work, and it's a good compound movement standing, military press. I know, I understand. I personally like the seated version. Okay, longevity, man. Been going at this for 40 years now. All right, my number 7. Speaking of rotator cuffs, my number 7, mandatory. This is a mandatory one in every single bodybuilder's routine. This is across the world. Mandatory. Rotator cuff work. Absolutely necessary. You have to do direct rotator cuff work. Do you have to do it every week, every workout? No, you don't. Often, semi-often? Yeah. You have to keep the strength level up on your rotator cuff muscles. Those boys are delicate. They need to be trained with generally light weights, and they need to be used properly. And I'll put a link down below with a great rotator cuff routine that I shot a video on last year. So that's going to be down below. So your rotator cuff muscles, let's keep them healthy and strong for the long-term health of our shoulders so we could bodybuild way into our 110s. That's 110-year-old, not 110 pounds, but over 100, right? Let's bodybuild that long, all right? So Number 8. I'm on number 8 out of 10. Deadlifts. Wow, another one. Deadlifts, or sumo deads, for those of you who have a different shaped structure, meaning proportion, upper body to lower body proportion, and you may find it difficult with really, really long legs. If you have very, very long legs, deadlifting, traditional, conventional style may be a little bit challenging. So we need to go ahead and get those legs out of the way by putting them wider, in which case a very acceptable alternative is sumo deadlift. With the feet way out wide, it's more leg action, a little less back, but conventional deadlift, sumo deadlift, I like both of them. Functional, yes. The reason I like that in there as my top 10 is that it uses a large number of muscle mass, body parts, muscle groups. Large number, no, I'm stumbling over my words here. A large number of muscle groups, and therefore a lot of muscle mass in your body is being used when you do deadlifts. So because of that, it's a fantastic compound movement. And again, I want to quantify this or qualify this in saying, those of you who have damaged your bodies already, if you've damaged your back, obviously you're not going to be able to do deadlifts. Obviously. I have an answer for you coming up later on. However, the deadlifts for those who are healthy, that have a very good and reasonable amount of flexibility, those of you, you should be including it in your routines. It creates a powerful look to your body, as well as makes a lot of muscle grow from front to back, top to bottom in your body, not just in your back, but in the back of your legs, in your quads, everywhere. Okay? Deadlift, sumo deads. Number 9, speaking of which, the alternative, reverse hyper machine. Now, Louis Simmons created that exercise, that machine, out of Ohio. I did an entire video on my Rogue Reverse Hyper, link down below. You're going to see a lot of you guys don't have access to a reverse hyper machine, a lot of you girls. And here's the thing. They're becoming more popular. A lot of gyms are picking them up these days. A lot of people are having them in their garage, just buying them for themselves because they realize how good they are and how good for their backs they are and how good they are for the chain up the backside of their body, the lumbar, the glute, the hamstring. It's impossible to train those muscles in the way that this machine does, in any other way with any other exercise. So you don't have your feet on the ground. See, now we're getting into closed chain versus open chain exercises. Okay? Closed chain exercises, open chain. Having your feet on the ground versus not. Okay? In this case, you don't. And you can exercise those 3 muscle groups in conjunction with one another. The glutes, the hams, the lower back, the lumbar. And when you're doing that, they learn and they gain a proper proportion or ratio of strength to one another. So, my reverse hyper machine, that's making it into my top 10. And then, last but not least, my number 10 exercise. Everybody, across the board, every bodybuilder should be doing this. Fascial stretching. John, what is fascial stretching? Well, I'm going to put a link down below for this one book. So over the years, we've heard about fascial stretches from originally John Parillo. Back in the day, John Parillo had recommended this type of training where you are pumping up muscles, training them very hard, a large volume of exercises he used to do. I don't necessarily agree with that, but he used to pump the muscles up quite a bit and then follow it up once you were done training and in between exercises with a very intense form of stretching. And he called it fascial stretches, stretching the fascia. He believed that by stretching the fascia, it created more room for the muscle to grow. Well, that's one reason, in theory, you may want to do fascial stretches. The other one is simple. And in recent years, the other one is to prevent injuries. And in recent years, another man was recommending these. His name is Ming. And there's a book that he wrote, The Permanent Pain Cure. And again, I'll have that link down below. It's a very inexpensive book and it shows all the stretches that can be done. So fascial stretches. He treats people out of New York City, and has had success with pro athletes as well as amateur, as well as people who are in the gym, fixing their bodies, giving them relief after years and years of pain from having injuries and damage to their and scar tissue in their fascia. So he's helped them along. These stretches definitely work, and they can keep you pliable, mobile, and able to do exercises for decades to come, as opposed to becoming injured and bound up and unable to do certain exercises. That's one of the problems as I'm looking at my list. Wow. So look, it's basically all of the exercises that I just mentioned, all of them. Anybody who's flexible enough, anybody who is who has not damaged anything through accidents in their body, anybody should be able to get their shoulders to move throughout that range of motion in their upper bodies, should be able to get their hips and their legs to move throughout that range of motion in their lower bodies, to be able to do the exercises that I just mentioned. If not, you're damaged. You've injured yourself, okay? And part of your life has to do with rehab and being able to create that flexibility once again. The only people that these 10 exercises are contraindicated for, that should not be going with these 10 exercises, are the ones who are either just plain too tight or have created injuries. If you're too tight, let me tell you something. Get flexible. Start doing your fascial stretches. Start doing a general stretch routine all on its own and gain that flexibility. So that's it for today. My top 10 exercises for everybody in their bodybuilding routine. And that's it for today. From my heart to you, John Hart. Before you go, you know the routine. Off to my left, you're going to see this disc pop up. That's the subscribe button for my channel. Please give that a tap. And down below to your right, you're going to see a thumbs up button. Please give that a tap. That also helps out with the channel, with the YouTube algorithm. I appreciate you. Looking forward to seeing you again. Thank you. Bye.